Yeah. You done?
Yes, I am. If I need extra work.
Yeah. Here.
I'd like to call to order the East Chicago Common Council regular board meeting for Wednesday, January 24th, 2024. The time is 6 p.m. Would you please stand for the pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
First District Councilwoman Monica Gonzalez.
Here.
Third District Councilman Terrence Hill. Fourth District Councilwoman Stacy Winfield. Fifth District Councilman Robert Garcia.
Present.
Sixth District Councilwoman Gilda Oren.
Present.
Councilwoman at Large Vanessa Hernandez Oren.
Present.
Councilman at Large Dwayne Ratsford.
Present.
Councilman at Large Kenneth Monroe.
Yeah.
Council President Lenny Francisci.
Minutes of council meeting.
We have the minute for January the tenth, year 2024.
So moved, President.
Second.
We have a motion made by Councilman
Garcia.
Garcia, second by Councilman Kingman Rose. Roll call, please. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Gonzalez.
Yeah.
Hill. Winfield.
Yeah.
Garcia.
Yes.
Orange.
Yes.
Hernandez Orange.
Yes.
Ransford.
Yes.
Monroe.
Yes.
No Francis.
Communication from the mayor.
I have no communications from the mayor.
Communication from department head.
We have accounts payable warrants. 1222023 CC. 010924 CC. 011624 CC. 012424 LA. And 012424 CC.
So move. Second.
We have a motion made by Councilwoman Gonzalez, seconded by Councilwoman Stacy Winfield. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Winfield.
Yeah.
Garcia.
No.
Orange.
Yes.
Hernandez Orange.
Yes.
Monroe.
Yes.
Ransford.
Yes.
Payroll warrant biweekly. 011924.
So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
We have a motion made by Councilman Garcia, seconded by Councilwoman Gonzalez. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Winfield.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Orange.
Yes.
Hernandez Orange.
Yes.
Monroe.
Yes.
Ransford.
Yes.
We also have Police Chief Jose Rivera.
The reason I was asking, or I asked to be part of the agenda was to actually talk about the two allegations that were made about the department 2 weeks ago by Councilman Garcia. I'm gonna start off with the allegations that my officer didn't respond to a shots fired call or didn't make a report for a shots fired incident. The allegations are serious. So those allegations actually justify a actual internal affair report because it's saying that they neglected their duty, violated several policies. So regardless if that allegation was made through a handwritten note, email, phone call, or a public meeting, we take those serious, especially since it's made by a councilman at a public meeting as a councilman. So I did go ahead and review, the allegations, and I won't go through this 4-page report, I'll just, go ahead and find my findings, or let you know about my findings. So once that comment was made, I received information from not only council members, but actually members of the public wanting to know what happened. So what I did was I logged into our ShotSpotter system. ShotSpotter actually tells us where shots are fired in the city. Once I logged into that, it actually showed me that the officers responded to those calls, so it gives me a case number. I looked up the case numbers, there were actually 5 reports filed. The house that was shot up, the officers actually did respond, made a report, talked with 7 witnesses, collected evidence, and they actually flooded the area. I know one of the comments made that we were short-staffed, and that's why we didn't respond. So I have a copy of the schedule, 8 officers were working. Every officer responded. Not only did they respond, the sheriff's department was working with us as well, and they responded. So again, reports were made, evidence was collected, at no point did any officer or supervisor cancel my guys from going because they were short-staffed. So the allegations were actually false. I'm sitting here and I actually see the officers' names, and I want to say their names because unfortunately, when these allegations are made and I have to do an internal affair report, it goes in their files. I can't hide that. And I can't ignore the allegations because if I ignore those serious allegations, it looks like I'm covering something up. So I have to be transparent and actually do an investigation. So the officers that actually responded were Sergeant Thomas Garcia, Sergeant Justine Santiago, Officer Jason Corral, K-9 Officer Mitchell Tipton and his K-9 partner Freya, Officer Luis Sanchez, and then 2 Lake County Sheriff deputies. So they actually did show up to the scene. I want to mention their name because they did nothing wrong. They actually did their job and went above and beyond their job. I also will give you the case numbers. There were actually 5 reports that were filed. ShotSpotter indicated to give us a case number for the first set of shots fired, and it was 24 EC 00443. There is a report on file on that. And that's the case they actually responded to. On the report, you'll see the dispatch notes of who actually responded, who their responsibility was, how long it took them to get there, and what the supervisor said. So they actually did flood that area. He actually called every officer working to go to that area. So we don't just ignore shots fired calls. The other case number was 24 EC 00458, 24 EC 00459, 24 EC 00461, and 24 EC 00465. These are all reports that were filed. So I'm not sure where the information came from, what was said, for you to come out and say that, but I say this because those officers also have to make a report. So now they have to defend themselves to me, and they have to be pulled from their shift that night to respond to the allegations. So each of those officers that come and make a report, all of them stated on their reports, and I won't read them, basically that they answered the call and they did their job. I confirmed that again with ShotSpotter and our swimming system that actually supports them, that shows that they did it. It's not something they can make up or hide. It's actually in the system. But I continue the investigation because I don't want to seem like I'll be biased. So I just sent an email to Councilman Garcia to see if he can give me any information that would support his allegations. As of today, right now, I haven't received anything. So I continue with the investigation. And I will read this part because again, I want to clear my officers. And it's important because when this goes on their file, if that officer wants to be promoted, the mayor board reads this. They're going to read this entire 4-page document that a councilman made an allegation, and it might be held against them. They can take a point away from an interview, they can take a point away for their performance eval. So I want to make sure that they're covered and that they did do their job. So they were investigated for neglect of duty, instant action, required reporting, and responding to criminal activity. Based on the facts of my finding, I find that each officer actually followed policy and protocol. I will read the conclusion because I do again want to make a public statement that the officers did their job. I achieve prevail by the integrity of my position and knowing to be responsible for the proficiency, discipline, conduct, appearance, and strict attention to duty of all my officers under my command. Find that all officers acted within policy in regards to the serious allegations made by Councilman Garcia on the January 10th, 2024 council meeting. The allegations made by Councilman Garcia were not only false, but lacked evidence. It is my belief that the allegations were fabricated in order to defame the integrity of the men and women who reached out to this department. The reason why I believe this is because the lack of effort made by Councilman Garcia to verify those allegations before he spoke out at council. At no point did he contact anyone from the police administrative staff or the chief of staff of the city to verify if the allegations were actually in fact true. Instead, he used his position as a city councilman to publicly make serious allegations against the entire department without making any effort to see if the allegations had any merit. Although we do encourage the public to report incidents and to report misconduct, we discourage them to make false reports and allegations against the police. False and or highly exaggerated complaints or allegations, such as this one, only serve to complicate our complaint-taking process. It is also a violation of Indiana law to make a false report or allegation against a police officer. Anyone who makes a false accusation for a purpose of discrediting a police officer may be prosecuted for false information under Indiana IC Code 3544-123B5. With that being said, I want to protect my officers. So I did make an official police report for false informing against the councilman because I want to put that in their file. Since I have to put an internal affair report in their file, I'm going to put a police report. Now, I understand if a constituent tells you something happened. Doesn't mean that it's true. Doesn't mean you publicly say it. Find out. I'm a phone call and an email away. You don't want to talk to me? I got my staff here. They have emails, they have phone calls. You easily can call them. But to come publicly and say something that didn't happen, it does discredit our department. It does actually defame those officers. That next day, those officers were the ones involved in the car pursuit of a wanted subject by the U.S. Marshals that had a stolen gun and pointed at them. Those officers work hard. And each and every one of them were disappointed by those allegations. So again, just because somebody tells you something, verify it. I've been told a lot of things about certain people on this board. I don't go out and publicly just say it. I'm gonna fact check that. Because of my position, it's gonna seem like it's true. The perception is gonna be, well, the chief said it, it must be true. Same goes to the public when a councilman sits at a meeting and says these allegations of what he heard, it comes out that this is true. And I have a problem with that, because now when I do these reports, this goes on their files. And I need to protect those officers. So that's why the report was made. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns?
Thank you, Mr. President. You can be more wrong ever in life. This is the time you're wrong, right? I had residents that told me, and the only thing I did at this meeting was communicate that their concerns. That's all I did, all right? That's the only thing I did, all right? I had a residents here that the shots went through her house. She said no, followed it. Had a residence gave me this bag full of shells and said nobody went to her house. Got them right there. Right? You cannot limit my free speech, right? No, you are trying to limit my free speech, okay? The only thing I say is that they said nobody came back. Okay? That's all I said. That's all I said.
That's exactly what he said.
Thank you.
But I do have a residence here that shots went to the house. She told me nobody's followed up. What I did also, I communicated to another officer. That officer gave, they gave your email address to that one resident. And then Commander Restaro was, I don't know how much communication she had with that one, but that's, will continually telling me nobody's following up. I followed up. Matter of fact, last council meeting, I got a call. The guys were back out there, me and Councilman Monroe went back out there, right across one officer that was down the street. He goes, yeah, I'm in the area. We go down there, the same guys, 8, 9 guys out there. You know, try to go around the block to try to catch an officer. And didn't see it, right? But I can communicate anything. A residents tell me, I'm communicating it. This and my council, right? For you to file charges, that's reckless. That's totally.
What file charges? File report.
Councilman Ransford, I would recommend you utilize your authority to move the meeting along. These airing of grievances perhaps can be done outside of the presence of all of the public in this meeting.
Yeah. Any
It's
other,
just my recommendation. It's not illegal.
any other questions?
I have a couple things I want to address. So the first thing I just want to discuss is, you're right. Our officers in the city do a good job. It might not be to the I guess, expectation that everyone has. But for us to continuously background individuals who are actually working their butts off, that's disgraceful and distasteful also. So, to know that people showed up, and not just to that, but to other calls, I think that first off, we should back them up rather than break them down. Just because of whoever's in charge, whether it be you as the chief or the mayor as the mayor, it doesn't matter. Those individuals are still working hard for our community. That's one thing. The second thing is, what was the date of that?
So the actual
Incident?
date of the incident was January 7th, 2024 at 1:57 a.m.
So 7 days after New Year's.
Yes.
So 7 days after
6
New
days.
Year's, 6 days after New Year's, where it was like Baghdad in here.
Right.
Okay, so bullets could have gone from wherever, right? That's all I wanted to know. The third thing is, there was 4 actual reports made to dispatch
Yes.
in regards to this incident. What's the practice of after those reports are made? Does that just let the police officers know this is what's happening in this area? Do you have to show up? Is that how that works? And is it practice to, if, let's say I made the police report, do you follow up with me to tell me, oh, this is what our findings were?
No, so the officers, when dispatch actually sends an officer, they actually determine what kind of call is it. And based on the severity of the call, that's how they respond. So on shots fired call, they don't have a choice. Being a violent act, they're gonna respond. Reports are always made. So even if a victim doesn't come forward, there's actually a shots fired report that's made showing what was collected. Can we collect every piece of evidence? No, we just need one shell piece to test. That's it. That's all we need to test. And that's where there was 18 rounds that were actually fired, and they did recover 14 shell casings. Now, it shows you shell casings that come from that incident. We can't prove that. Because there's shell casings all over the city from New Year's Eve. We can't prove that from that incident. Now, once he said that the lady that sent an email actually sent the video or talked to our commander, we actually have a directive from the Lake County Prosecutor's Office. I can have 8 people walking with guns just like I have right now. I cannot approach them and stop them from walking. They can hang on their porch at 2 a.m. with rifles and shotguns. By law, that's not probable cause to stop them or even talk to them. That is the directive from the Lake County Prosecutor's Office. That is not enough probable cause to stop someone. That's like stopping someone from being on your cell phone. The law in Indiana says you can carry a gun, you can carry a rifle. That's not the chief of police, the mayor, or the city council. That's the law in Indiana. So yeah, we saw a video of people hanging out. That's not illegal. That does not, you can't just stop an officer. Oh my God, there's 8 people right there and they're just walking. Doesn't matter time of day. No, you have to have more than that. So we did respond to the complaint. That's why it was reported to the commander of patrol. But again, I'm gonna stick to the story. Allegations were made.
Two more things. So did you get the email? Did you respond to the individual sent to you or one of your officers?
I forwarded to the patrol commander.
And then the last thing is, in the same statement in regards to, or not that same statement, might have, in regards to crime, that the numbers that are being produced by you, I just want to know, when that's being produced, how does that come to be? Is that something that you take to the state, federal, FBI? Do we hide it? Because so that to me makes no sense, but maybe you could.
So that's the second reason why I'm here. So as far as the statement that violent crime is up, that's also false. So what we use is the NIBRS. It's a National Incident-Based Reporting System that's actually created by the FBI. By law, we have to report everything. So it's done through our computer system. You can't manipulate that. So it's actually, NIBRS is actually was created in 2021 for every agency. The most accurate way to actually get stats for every city and town, not just Chicago, every city and town in the United States. It goes to the FBI. There's nothing more violent than murder. Our homicide rate went down 50%. So, I'll answer in 1 second. In 2020 and 2021, we had 13 homicides. In 2022, we had 10. And in 2023, we had 5. So homicides went down 50%. We actually were on Channel 7 News. Of the 5 homicides we had, we saw 4, 80%. National average is 52. That's huge. So basically, we're doing above the national average. When it comes to crime being down, violent crime, 50% on homicides. The second one, aggravated assault, we're down 6.2%. Is it a huge drop? No, but is it a drop? Is it a decrease? Yes. Not a decrease. So when they say violent crime is up or violent crime is out of control, it's a lie. This is exactly come from the FBI. Unless you have documents from somewhere else.
Well,
Go ahead.
well, because I didn't say violent crime was up last year. I said the mayor has stated in 13 years he's been there, crime has been down. And that was a false statement. But you can say, I said it, that's false.
Right at the 16-minute, 47-second mark, you said violent crime is up in the city. of Chicago.
No, I said that.
Point of order, point of order. Any other questions?
Let him finish. That's what you do. Let him talk.
I mean, we don't want to go back and
Yeah, but
forth.
we let him talk.
As president, I'm making a call.
We-
Next question.
Make-
Do you have a question, sir?
Yeah, let him speak.
There's some things he said, and she said, I gotta respond to. It's unfair for me not to be able to respond. I never
That's
said
right.
anything bad about an officer. One thing I mentioned was that the president said no to respond, all right? As far as you saying, you might say, I'm lying about these shells. Well, you know what? Next time I'll try to get all the residents here to come to respond to that, because this came from that shooting at that, and nobody came to that house, she told me. All right? Like I said, I never said nothing about no officers. One thing I mentioned was, Reggie said, nobody showed. Nobody came. That's the only thing I said. That's all.
I have a question. In regards to the casing, do you know whether or not an officer actually responded to that resident in regards to the shooting of?
So I have to get the date and time that that person called. But according to our report, they actually made a report, I get 5 reports. For every house that called in and said that their house was shot. Now, if their house was shot, they didn't call us, that's a different story, but if they call dispatch, there'll be a recording of that call. And there'll be a recording of dispatch sending us. Then there'll be a case number generated, I can look up that case number, so they have to give me the time and date they called dispatch, I get that case number. And look it over with the reports we have. But speaking to those 2 supervisors, every single call they got, they responded to, based on shot spotters, showing their case numbers that were actually reported. Every officer responded and made a report.
So you're not exactly sure whether or not this particular.
I have to get a date and time and name of the person that called. And again, all of this will be easily verified. You get allegations that we do our job, it's an email, and a phone. That's it. That's it. Email and a phone call, and we can address that quickly. It's funny they say we want to do it publicly, but that was done publicly. And they could have been done through an email or a phone call, and we could have squashed that right then and there.
Chief Rivera, can I just,
Talked to the guy who started, and that one resident talked, that's why I left after that, okay? That's why I left to see where it's going, okay? But the other resident called me and I got 2 shells, but that one resident, the man at the start talked to, and then I left it like that. So after that, that was done.
thank you.
Was that resident's name or information sent to us though? So I can investigate it. Again, if it's sent to me, I can fact check that.
Let's move on.
No, I'm asking, I'm just, that's why I'm here, because I wasn't here to respond. Now that I'm here, you want to get off this stage and not say nothing, but I'm asking, was that information sent to me to verify? That's important. You can't expect me to know something if I'm not told. I can't sit here and respond and say, yes, we responded to this card. No, if I don't have the name and date. That's why I sent that email to say, give me the information, and you didn't give me the information where you got the shell papers or anything. So again, I want to put that public. I'll make it public.
Chief Rivera, can I
Get my
ask that?
updated,
Go ahead.
what if they didn't get my updated? You ain't got on it.
When, Chief Rivera, I asked that if you could possibly make contact with the individual and, check and see whether or not that she actually, received a, a follow-up call and a report made to her resident. That'll be great, and let the council know.
And again, that's why I have anybody have any questions, further questions, comments, concerns?
Councilwoman.
I called you about an incident last night, and I just wondered if you had an update for me for that.
Yeah, so the incident was regarding 3 officers in the area of Sunnyside. They were just patrolling. So there were 3 officers, and there were no shot fired, there was no violent crimes, they were actually out of their vehicle. And I won't bore you with the time, but we actually have what's called a resource router that assigns officers certain districts in the city based on call volume, shot spotter, and any type of violent crimes that happen. And those officers are assigned there to check that area periodically. And how do we go to doing it? Because the system actually tells us when they're there based on the GPS of the vehicle. So all they're doing is responding to the shot spotter boxes, or not shot spotter, resource router. So resource router is something that the officers log into every day. And every day they got to check these boxes of high call volume and high crime areas. So sometimes they get out their vehicles, they sit there parked with their lights on, they're actually just parked with their lights off. What they're doing is monitoring to see if anything's gonna happen, because the system said, more than likely, if something's gonna happen, it's gonna happen in this area. And that's what they're doing, they're just being proactive patrol. Nothing happened, but we did have 3 officers in that area, again, responding to resource problems.
And to my colleagues, what I asked is that at 11:45, I received a phone call from a resident asking what was going on in front of my home, because the squad blocked the street in front of my neighbor's driveway. They were out walking in the neighborhood and right in front of my house to her corner. And that's why I called to find out what was actually going on, because the neighbors, even though it's 11:45, a lot of them are woke. And it was just looking like, it was kind of suspicious. We didn't know if someone was going to the yards or what, but that's what my call was to the chief.
And then we also had yesterday, I don't know if you guys see on social media, we had a county-wide blitz. So what that means is agencies from all over the county get together, close to 50 officers, and they patrol every city and district in the county based on call volume and request. So that, I can't give you the stats on, that's something that the county actually comes out with stats later, if they made any arrests, tickets, or whatever they did. But are they in our city? Absolutely, just like that shot fire call, we had a county in our city. Those stats, I won't sit here and guess and give you because it's not my department, but I do welcome them into the city. So you will see them here quite often.
County has jurisdiction in every city.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Chief Rivera. Moving on to committee reports. Okay,
I don't have any.
okay. All right, board reports. Board reports, ordinances on first reading.
Ordinance first reading, ordinance 24-0001, sponsor Mayor Acting Vote. Additional appropriations ordinance for Public Works Department for landscaping and maintenance and contractual services.
First reading, President.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Councilman Garcia, second by Councilman Monroe. Any questions? Councilman Garcia.
Gavin, first of all, I'm gonna give you a compliment. The snow removal, it was, I tell you, that's the best I saw in that.
Thank you.
Pretty good, your staff, pat on the back, but that's the best I've seen this thing up during the snow, and stuff like that. And there's 2 we had back to back, yes. I got, no complaints on that. Jamie, like, on this year, I got, for the long range, $1,077,945. Did any of this go out to bid?
So no, I know that was a question that we had last year. So procedural, the way that it's been done in the past and the way that our policies are set up, anything that's contract based, is because the city of Chicago is setting the prices, we don't go out to bid because we're actually setting the prices and the actual vendors are agreeing to our prices.
But I think there's a time you could try to bid this out and even get a more price, because everybody, most of the people I see on this list is people that give back to the mayor's campaign. Another question I got, the Ryan landscaping. I seen them out plowing some streets. Are they plowing streets when we know, you got staff that did an excellent job?
Yes, so the reason, well, the first about, the pricing on each. So I have last year's spreadsheet and what was approved. So everyone's amount did decrease because we did take the information from last year of adding vendors. So we did add a vendor this year, Great Lakes Landscaping, to the grass contract. So everyone's amount that they're receiving this year rather than last year is lower. In regards to the snow plowing, so we have a bare minimum, that, since I became a director, that we have on the streets at a time. So our bare minimum, we have out 8 trucks at a time. So we have 8 trucks at a time that's able to have, mostly every part of the city covered. So when we don't hit our minimum staffing level of having 8 trucks at a time, we do have an option to call out vendors to be able to assist us to make sure that the streets are still being plowed. So I think it was the second snowfall, our guys, we implemented a new policy as well, that our guys, just like, NDOT, they're out, if they say it's gonna start snowing at 6, our guys are out 2 hours before to be ready for the event. So our guys, the first couple of days were out, around the clock, 24 hours. So that Saturday morning, we just, our guys were all tired and we couldn't get any guys to commit to come out. So instead of, leaving the streets and we were having cold weather coming, we did call out 2 vendors and we did get Divine and Great Lakes Landscaping to assist us in the efforts of keeping the streets clean. And those rates are made by us and they agree to those rates.
I just want you to be careful.
Yep.
All right, Divine Landscaping, I know it's a church you go to.
Yep.
All right, stuff that goes on politically, be very careful, watch.
Yeah, no, I'm very careful. That has, that doesn't grade my judgment at all, on, picking vendors and, getting pricing for vendors. Divine Landscape doesn't only do work in the city of Chicago.
I seen them this past summer, ones that don't grow no weeds at all. And they were spraying those cracks that don't even grow no weeds. Why? Are they spraying also, for weeds?
Yes, so, we do have them, within the weeding, the landscaping contract, we do have them, I'm doing de-weeding and, de-weeding of weeds that are in the business area. So we were using, True Green for that, but we're looking at the price points and it was a little high, so we did, look for some other pricing and, they came in lower and, we use just True Green for the alleys now.
You say they came in lower, put it up, didn't they?
No, we didn't buy them for bid.
Do all these contracts, do you sign a contract, are they signing contracts with the city?
Yes, all the contracts are attached in the documents that were sent over.
Any other questions? I have a question. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Gonzalez.
So this contract that we're putting forward with these, businesses, that includes all the grass cutting in the abandoned buildings and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, so when you see on the cover sheet, whereas everyone's pricing, when you see AMPS amps are those individual addresses, and those are color coded gray in that Excel spreadsheet.
Okay, because I know in the first district, we have a lot of residents that don't cut their grass or
Yep.
it's abandoned, so I just want to make sure.
Yeah, and we work closely with redevelopment on, as the, year goes on of adding those addresses that the city obtains.
Okay, thank you.
So, any other questions? Okay, I just had a question as it pertains to snow removal outside contractors. Is that part of that number or is that in addition to, so if they did those snow plows on a Saturday, then does that number go, it's an additional funding for that or is part of that?
Yeah, so that's a separate funding, so we take that out of, contractual that we budget for snow, operations. So, that rate is $105 per hour per truck. And that's across the board for any vendor that, agrees to that $105 an hour. And that's not like we tell them, hey, go plow on your own. Anytime we have them out, they're following behind one of our trucks.
Councilwoman?
Just out of curiosity, I see that, different, contractors actually change, like what they're actually working on. So I know by looking at the contracts and what they're actually cutting. So it's changed from last year, because I remember being on the committee last year running this. Is there a reason why that happens?
As in the areas or the pricing?
The areas,
The areas, it's just, it's fluctuated on, additional properties being added to the AMP sheet. And if the vendor, when we have our vendor meetings, if, they, lower staffed or something like that, that's what changes. This year, I think only 2 vendors had a change in areas, but other than that, everything is pretty much the same. But again, we did add a vendor to the landscape, to the amp sheet, so that's why everyone's price is a little bit lower than last year.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I know it didn't rain a lot last year.
Mhm.
Did any money come back that, we saved that they didn't do no cuts? I know they've been cutting every 2 weeks like they're supposed to, so.
So no funds came back from last year because it is a contract and it's, a binding contract. So we were kind of creative on the ways that we went about it. Still picking up paper, still doing those type of things, last year when we didn't have that rain.
So instead of, so we was paying them for picking up paper, not cutting the grass. like-
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, there was a couple weeks where they were, not physically cutting the grass, but they were picking up paper, de-weeding areas. They were still working and putting the same time in they would to cutting the grass. Because we got to get to a point where we can't keep cutting the grass and, it's already brown and dying.
With the readings and different.
No, so if you take a look at the contract, for all of the landscaping vendors and the grass vendors, it's a very detailed contract from, we have a storm and branches fall, that vendor has to take those branches out of their assigned part, put it on the corners, we pick it up. So, I mean, for the price that we're paying them, we're asking them to do very lot. So they're responsible for trimming everything in the parks. The only thing they're not responsible for anymore is the mulch. But everything else they're responsible for, from trimming, picking up, all that type of stuff.
Don't forget to tell them guys they did excellent
Will do.
job on this.
Councilwoman.
I just want to add to help Jalen, being the park director, I understand, previously a park director, I understand what it was for when we wait sometimes for contractors to come in to help keep the parks clean. Public Works did not have enough individuals to help pick up some of that garbage, and it would sit there and it would sit along the waysides. We didn't have enough people, so the contractors did help and with that, so they're a great asset. You see our parks look great, and it is because of Public Works along with the contractors who help us make that happen.
I just like to once again give kudos to Jalen in Public Works, you all are my number one. And, he has been keeping the public up to date. If you're on social media, I have a page for my district. Everything he puts out, I put on our page. Residents know whether it's the freeze, through the ice storm, he let them know. The young man is doing the video. So there's no way, unless you're not on social media, that you don't know what's going on. As far as the contractor, I am familiar with that, and because you have the employees working around the clock, a lot of them may not be trained to plow the snow, so they do need those vendors, and if they're working 16 hours, they can only work so many hours, and I know they're working shift work, so that's when you do need that vendor to come in and assist with that, so I am familiar with that, and to provide these contracts, thank you so much, but thank you, we can send a letter to Public Works so he can actually read it to the employees that they did a phenomenal job.
Any other questions? We have a motion on the floor, by Councilman Garcia and a second by Councilman Monroe. No other further questions. Roll call, please.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Winfield,
Yes.
Garcia. No. Orange,
Yes.
Hernandez, Orange,
Yes,
Monroe,
Yes.
Ransford.
Yes. Motion passed. Do we have any ordinances on second reading?
We have nothing on second, we have nothing on third.
Resolution?
2 resolutions. First resolution, resolution 24-0001. Sponsor Mayor Anthony Copeland. Resolution providing for additional funding for the city's home ownership incentive program through 2025.
President.
Second.
We have a motion made by Councilman Garcia, seconded by Councilman Monroe. Any questions? Yes, Councilwoman Cortez. Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Yes, I have a question about why we have to fund from 2025. Usually the budgets, when we do budgets, it's yearly. And I know when we started, when we do go over the budget process, Mr. Bennett has come here many a times saying not to look ahead and go year by year to see where the money's coming from, if we have the money. I totally agree with funding through 2024. But the 2 year, I'm having to just be very cautious doing so as a council. If you can, Attorney Jones, if you could give us some insight on that.
So I think the past council actions outlined in the resolution indicated that we were approving on a 2-year basis. I seem to recall that we did it on a 1-year basis last year, but it's not in the resolution. There's no real reason, I don't see any real legal reason why you couldn't pair it to 1 year at a time if you wanted to make an amendment. Or you could do 2 years. I don't see any real legal reason why you have to do every 2 years. That makes sense. So there's nothing in what was passed by the Board of Works that would require it be a 2 year. So if there was an amendment that you wanted to make it 1 year at a time, that's fine too. I don't see any real issue with it.
I just think the other thing is, when we had the residents talk about how they couldn't get the funding. So we go ahead and we approve it for the 2 years, it's gonna happen again. And I think expectations need to be voiced by redevelopment saying, if you're gonna receive this or if you're going through classes again at the end of the year, the monies will not be there. We're gonna go through the same thing in 2025. So I just don't, I don't know. I don't like that we're approving for 2 years.
Was there anyone here to talk on this?
Yes.
Okay, so maybe you could get
Yeah,
a little bit of enlightenment, because obviously you passed something at the board level.
I can give you an idea of what's going on. I believe I sent an email to everybody.
I'm sorry, could you please state your name for
My
record?
name is Frank Brown, the Executive Director of the Department of Redevelopment, and I should start off by thanking everyone here in terms of congratulations to all the leaders of this council now. As a matter of fact, and Mr. Medina too, I don't want to him out. The purpose of the 2 year contract is that there were some things that have been going on in terms of trying to solidify, the years that cross. And what ended up happening, which I sent an email to everybody about the fact that there was a situation, or there were some situations, which I do have some credibility here in terms of emails of 4 people who are ready to close in terms of, the down payment assistance program, but with no funding, I can't tell them to close. So they're sitting there waiting for us, which I sent an email to all of you to indicate basically that we are letting them all know that eventually we're waiting for the county council to do an appropriation and approve it. And so the 2 year buffer helps me to kind of solidify the next following year so that I don't fall into that scenario where people are not enabling themselves to get closing. And so I'm figuring that I approach it with to see whether or not the 2 year can be processed in terms of us doing that. Then also, as Ms. Councilwoman Guzman said, we are going to be putting in our process of when we're dealing with the people and the real estate people and whomever, the bankers or whatever, that the program will have a little delay, just a small delay, because we want to make sure that you understand that at a certain point in time, you shouldn't be able to go and try to close because we're in a 2 year process, or if not, the next following 2 years. So then I would there way ahead of the process and knowing what's coming next. And I thought it was a good, productive process when this movement sent me, or not myself, but Ms. Chief of Staff, an email indicating there was some concerns. And this is the way that I'm trying to resolve the concern, so we don't fall in a scenario and no one's being looked at as saying, well, okay, it could be this, or it could be that, or it could be this. That's why I asked for this to be
Are
approved
you
by
talking about fourth quarter closings and not having, okay.
all of them.
Question. Councilwoman Gonzalez.
So you're saying that all the closings, but what's really, I guess, the 4 letters that you received are for the people who are trying to buy early year, like January, February, is that correct?
They're trying to close in February, or
Right.
January, February,
Right.
time period
So-
that they were in the process.
Right, so the expectation was never set, so that's why,
The expectation wasn't there.
okay, so
But-
I guess my biggest thing is, so if we pass this resolution, then I hope that, it's outlined so that they know that the closing is not, closing for January, February is kind of iffy until money gets generated. But in 2025, when they come, you know what I mean? I hope we're not going through this process again, is what I'm saying.
And I agree with you too. I'm hoping not to have that process occur. I know during our workshops, we could mention that, and we could also talk to the realtors, we could talk to the bankers, make sure that they understand what's going on, because they were the ones who called me and said, hey, I was told that you guys already got appropriated. No, that was a whole different scenario. This scenario here is one that we're doing now. Okay, the other one was the $400,000, which in reality, that was not an appropriation for 2024, it's for 23.
And
So are you gonna run into this problem in January of 26?
Yes, I'm hoping that I don't.
That's
my question.
we have, I'm sorry,
Sorry, guys. I just need some.
Councilman Garcia.
Yeah, I think we need to get all back on track. So do you have any money for this year's budget for that?
No, because I think all of you canceled it out.
We didn't cancel the budget.
Or whatever it was,
for the year
didn't get
before.
passed.
Okay, so that's what we gotta make sure we all got to understand. So that's why
And I think I wrote that in the email too, that it didn't get passed, and because it didn't get passed, all of a sudden, everyone thought this 400,000 was an appropriation, but it wasn't. That's why we're looking to want to do a 2-year, and I'm going to be pushing it very hard that they understand that there might be a little delay when it comes to 26. Okay?
Yeah,
And I think if you're upfront with everybody, I believe they're more receptive to that.
no problem giving money, but I think once you get to the end of the year, administration has been great doing additional appropriations or changing on across the city. I think that's what you need to do, evaluate it in September. Okay, how many people you think you won't have to go through to get that done? So, so that's no issue doing additional appropriation, but I think we need to get that back in September to see how many people get in that program that's gonna fall into December or January.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because a lot of times the client themselves or the realtor is trying to set up a date, but guess what? The paperwork may not be facilitated correctly. And I can't give anybody the dollars unless all the paperwork is correct, because I have to review all that. And I'm not gonna let one thing go by. Everyone has to stand by what they're giving me in terms of data.
Well, if you got people in the program, you ask for the money, they will give you that money, and then you'll have that money there, so when they hand it all in, then you can take care of it.
And that's the whole thing about the 2 year. That helps me out there. Well, it helps all of us because this is a very popular program. It's still going strong. I got 400 individuals already in terms of being adopting assistance. I spent $4.4 million. And that represents all of us here.
Councilwoman.
For the monthly meetings, do you cap at a certain meeting or is just anyone who's wanting to participate?
It's anyone who wants to participate. I don't cap it.
Well, I'm saying, and I'm trying to figure out, like, can you determine how many people will actually want to be part of the process if we cap it? But if you don't, then obviously you won't. But I agree with Councilman Gonzalez in the sense of there should be a process in place at the beginning, in the front, in writing, black and white, so they can understand that if you're going into that fourth quarter, you're gonna have to wait a little bit longer in order for the possibility for you to see the monies, because it's not.
It is correct. But remember, this program was a 10-year program. I never had to go back to the board or to anyone because it was a 10-year program that already said, along with the mayor. And so then I would change from 10 to 1, and it changed to 2. I'm trying to get at least 2. Do you remember when it was a 10-year program?
I don't think we ever did 10 years.
It was 10 years. I got
10 years.
10-year contract with everyone here. It may not be $10 million, but it was per year, 10 years.
Any other questions? Well, I have no questions. So, just curious, if we're doing 2 years, like you said previous, whether or not it was 10 years, it's favorable. But my question is, are you prepared to say at the end of this year, come back for an additional 2 years. So at that point, we'll still have funding for 2 additional years. So that'll give us, more than enough time.
Yeah, I could do that a little more earlier, but the thing is that, remember, a contract ends at a certain point in time. Unless I'm allowed to adjust that contract to say, okay, give me a month or 2 more, but it doesn't make sense. I think like you all said, I gotta be a little bit more diligent in terms of the process to make sure that everyone realizes that we are all working very hard together, because remember, your dates don't fit my dates in terms of meetings, in order to fit the public work, the board of works. So everybody's jockeying around in a positive way to make everything fit. And that's why I did this real quick. I said, I need to get everyone on the same page. And so I anticipated going to the board of works, anticipated my board, anticipated your board, and so on and so on. So that we can diligently move on, because I did say in my email to all of you that we're hoping by February, right, that you will all be able to close, because if I get this process as quickly as possible tonight, then I'm good, because that's what we wrote.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Motion made by Councilman Garcia, second by
Monroe,
Monroe. No additional questions? Roll call, please.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Winfield,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Orange,
Yes.
Hernandez, Orange,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Ratchifer.
Abstain. Resolution.
Next resolution. Resolution 24-0002, sponsors Councilman Dwayne Ranch. Resolution establishing a policy on the naming or renaming of city-owned property.
Mr. President.
Second.
The motion was approved, made by Councilman Garcia, second by Councilwoman Orange. Any questions?
Can I propose just some minor amendments to the policy before you move, just for clarification purposes?
Yeah.
So, I would just propose, and I'm happy to make these if you guys make the motion, but I would just move, section 5 up and make it section 4. And then you have a couple of, I love that this public comment is mentioned a couple of times. I would put the public comment recommendation under general so that it applies to all of the renaming provisions you have in here and not just some of them. So I would move that general section up and make it section 4, and then I would put the public comment requirements under general so that it applies to all of the renaming, because you have it under a couple of them and then I don't see it under section 4. So I assume you wanted the public comment period to be open for all of the renaming and not just some of them. So those are just minor recommendations. And if you want, I can make those changes if somebody wants to motion that.
We have a
So moved. Changes.
Second.
And I can send it around so that you guys are clear on what I just said.
So I have questions of amendment in regards to the public comment. So I know when they ended up changing, like Martha was from Guthrie to Martin Luther King, I'm not sure if this counts or not, but if it's something that's mandated by the state per se, or that we have to change it for some whatever, we're asking them to go through the process.
No, if you have, for instance, section 4 is criteria for naming city property.
Correct.
And then you have section 6, naming procedures for new property. So under the new property one, you've got the open public comment period, but you don't have it under section 4. And I think you probably wanted it there. So my point was, let's just put it under general so it applies to those namings. But if you have a mandate from the state, you wouldn't apply to any public comment because it's not really your call at that point. If that makes sense.
So we're saying like under authority in a sense, if you go over, I'm assuming that's where it would be like a mandate.
Right, and then you wouldn't be going through the naming procedures anyway, because it's somebody else's telling what's gonna happen.
So then wouldn't you rather just put it as a subsection for all the times where it's something that's not mandated?
Well, I don't think that you have anything in here related to, because your policy is about how to rename city-owned property, so if it's mandated, then the council wouldn't be doing it anyway. That makes sense.
No, that's what I meant.
Yeah, so your policy doesn't apply, period, by law to anything that's already mandated. So this is all about how the city itself is gonna rename something. So if somebody else is renaming it like it's a mandated or statute or something, then this wouldn't apply anyway.
Okay, that was my question.
Yeah, so-
Right, but I think your question more pertains to, as an example, prior council renamed Guthrie Street to Martin Luther King, and that was done by council.
Yeah,
But her question, if I'm not mistaken, is how does that relate to how it goes through the state?
Yeah, it is. I was just wondering if the council had any votes, let's say the state comes and says they want to change Annapolis Boulevard to, I don't know. Your name, right?
right, Angie Boulevard.
Yeah, Angie Boulevard.
I mean, I like it, but maybe Mother.
So what I'm saying is that something that the council is gonna be,
No,
so then that's why, no.
no, you wouldn't, then you wouldn't even be, this would not apply, period. Yeah,
That's why.
yeah. I just thought, I saw the public comment, I like it. I just figured you want it to apply to all of the things that you're working in rename. So if you guys are good with that, I can make the changes and I won't obviously submit it to Vivian until everybody sees it. So it's exactly what I just said.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, we have a motion on the floor with the amendments made that will approve prior to by Councilman Garcia and second by Councilwoman Orange. Roll call, please.
Roll call to amend. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Winfield,
Yeah.
Garcia,
Yes.
Orange,
Yes.
Hernandez on,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Ratchford,
Yes. Motion passed.
Yeah,
To amend.
amendment, but we still, resolution passed.
Okay, so, okay,
as amended.
as mentioned.
Just want to thank Councilman Ratsford. We did get together, we did discuss this. Thank you for doing this. Can't wait to get this passed, so we can continue going forward with the Villa Boulevard and Heritage Hall. Thank you so much.
Old business?
We got to vote.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, let's vote on the as amended resolution 24-002.
Gonzalez,
I'm sorry. Oh,
to adopt as amended.
Yes.
Winfield,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Orange,
Yes.
Hernandez on,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Ratchford.
yes. Motion passes. Old business?
I just want to know, I know I have a resident. Right now, she's the one that can't speak, but she's the one that got her house rid of the bullets. She's in the back. But we will get back to the residents. Another thing also is that usually in the past, and I know other chiefs have done it in the past, if something like this happens, they'll knock on every door on that block. Every door, you know, and that's what needs to be done, not call back, see who called, and I'm gonna only talk to the people that called. Everybody on that block needs to, everybody on that door, on that block, that door needs to be knocked and talked to reassure them that, hey, it's safe, we're gonna be out here, you got any information and video, but, Christina, you heard the chief, you heard some people who want to talk? Come on up.
She ought to be talking, doing public expression. I mean, just to be
No,
calling.
I called her up, as we done in the past, we
That's
called.
what you have done.
Yeah.
Nobody else has done.
You know, attorney.
Yeah, Councilman Brinsberg, it's within your authority to direct the public expression, if you want to allow Councilman Garcia's resident to speak right now versus during public expression, if you're running the meeting, it's your call.
Go ahead.
You need to say your name and
Christina
your
Reyes.
address.
First, I just want to say, I live on that block where the shooting took place. I did call the police, they did respond. For me, I don't know about the rest of the residents. What I just wanted to say was, I tried calling the police department to speak to the detective, to get information, left messages, nobody ever responded to this. The bullet did enter my home and barely missed my son's fiance. And with that, that's a scary situation. That's the reason why I called the police. The bullet lodged into my neighbor's house. I don't know if they took it. The neighbors that I do have there, I'm very happy they wanted me to talk. The resident has been there for 52 years and she moved out. She's cleaning out her house and she's not in it now due to the situation. The resident across the street, which they wanted me to speak to, has videos. This happened right in front of my house next door. You could clearly see these guys shooting there, running back and forth. Nobody's came to look at that video. I have it on my phone. That's how easy it was to get the video from my neighbor. And nobody's ever came to speak to them to get any of the videos or anything. Now, my concern is, I think are doing a great job. I'm all for the police, so that's not my issue. It's just that, the neighbors want to know what's going on. And that's the problem, we're not getting no responses on what's taking place. That's the only problem we're having. As far as what they do, I'm all for it. My brother's a retired police officer from Chicago, so, you know, it's just the fact of being informed. You know, Sunday I went to church at 10 something, came home, I think finished at 11, whatever it was, by 12 o'clock they were shooting. So, you know, like, it would just be nice being a resident. I've been here for 45 years, it was the same home that I was born in, still there. And it would just be nice being a long-term resident, just to know what's going on our block.
Yeah, still in a little business. Just to say, the commander that was here, we've talked, and when I talked with him, we started asking him, let's have a community meeting, with the residents on that block. I called to follow up. He told me he's waiting on the police chief to get back to him, try to conduct this meeting. And this is a meeting that we should be having on that block. We could have the same patch, but no, they haven't got back. That's all.
Any other old business? Moving on to new business. Councilwoman Johnson.
One of the things that I wanted to address, and I know, some of the residents of Beacon and, Chicago Avenue, the alley, they're having trouble with drainage there, and I know we have, Will has left as our head engineer. So I'd like a letter to be written to our new engineer Julio and CC Sandra and ask about the French drains that were supposed to be installed at Beacon, and Beacon and Chicago Avenue, the alleyway there. The other thing I wanted to say was I wanted to recognize the East Chicago Evening Lions Club. Today, they went all over Lake County, in East Chicago, Hammond, Gary, to count homelessness in our city. And I don't think that we realize how important that is in order to get funding to help with homelessness in our city. So I wanted to thank them for volunteering their time for doing that.
Any other new business? Councilwoman.
I did want to add to Jalen's kudos for not only the work that they all did with Public Works to pick up, but also the transparency that he has. What we approve on the council for the monies for the snow removal is getting put to use, and you can see it, whether it be by Facebook or just hearing your community members, it's done. I was at work and I had people come to me and say, East Chicago is cleaner than some of the other streets that we have, because they have to go through there in order to come to my place of work. And it was good to hear individuals talk about us in a positive light, because it's usually something negative. And that's nothing to those who were previously in the position, but it's just good to hear something positive. I also wanted to recognize two individuals who have given, many years of service, to the city of East Chicago. And that was Renee Sid, working in several departments for the city of East Chicago. And if I'm correct, he worked, it said 34 years. As well as Ms. Fran Owacki, who dedicated 42.5 years to the city of East Chicago. To be able to withstand so much that we have in the city, I think they need to be commended for it.
New business, yeah, just want to let my fellow, colleagues know, have a plan to talk to some councilmen, council people also to bring this, resolution up back about middle of the garden. I want to thank my brothers out there in the audience for coming in and supporting.
Any other new business? Moving on to public expression. We're going to call everyone who might name. You'll have 3 minutes. Please state your name and address when you come to the podium. My first name is Deborah Lyon.
First. Good evening. I want to thank you, Councilman Ratsford, for this resolution. Establishing the policy and renaming and naming city-owned property. But after 4 months, I think we need to move a little bit faster. So thank you. And everyone else. I gotta say this, because when I was up there, I was tiptoeing around a lot of people. Not hurt feelings, be careful what you say, but now I'm on the other side of the fence. And I'm gonna say what I have to say, whether you like it or not. Didn't the mayor tell the media back in October that there was a procedure? And the council didn't follow it. Yet, in 2018, the Unity Center was built with the names of Clemente and Penn added.
That's right.
That's right. Was there a procedure then? No. The Roberto Clemente Center was closed. It was in the heart of the Latino community. Did this administration ask the Puerto Rican community how they felt? How about the kids in the neighborhood? Was there a community meeting to discuss the closing of the center or the naming of the Unity Center? We have a Vietnam Medal of Honor hero that gave his life protecting his fellow comrades and has been dead for more than 50 years. This administration and some of the members of the council feel it isn't enough to honor him. Now that I'm sitting on the other side of the fence, I'm going to say this. I am so disappointed and heartbroken, whether you believe it or not. I was born and raised in this city. Stop the backdoor dealings. Have some respect for Emilio de la Garza Jr., his family, and the Latino community of East Chicago. The procedure is in place. What's your excuse now? Let's move on. Thank you.
Right here.
Next, we have Thomas Pagano.
Thank you, Council President. That's for congratulations to everybody on 2024 on winning their elected seats. City Clerk Medina also, Councilwoman and Council. I'll be quick on my point here. Every year we receive the calendar from the City of Chicago with the high loss picture. Something caught my attention in regards to an app called Atlas One. See something, say something, and it's to help the police department help us as citizens in this city, report crime or be aware of certain situations going on in the city. One question I do have is, we assume that everyone has a smartphone. My neighbors do not. They came to me and said, and asked, Tom, what does this mean? I go, do you have internet? Not really. I just, my grandchildren send me some pictures and that's about it. I said, do you have a cell phone? Yeah. And it's the flip phones. I said, oh, that's an issue. Cause they may not be able to get these alerts. And if you're not well educated or internet savvy, that's a disconnect to these residents because God forbid they could walk into something that they can't get out of walking down. I'm not gonna say any street, it could be any street. But in that regard, when you call 911 that's outsourced to Crown Point, it's there's a big disconnect. I'll tell you an example. And I want to thank the chief of police for explaining shots fired tonight. I got a clear understanding how it works. And so back in late spring, early summer, I thought I heard gunshots in Sunnyside. So I called 911. There's a disconnect because there's a built-in pause. They'll say 911 emergency center, pause. So to me, that's, I'm going to tell you the emergency, hey, gunshots over in Sunnyside. No, it's either AI transcribing what you just said, or the customer service representative, the 911 operator typing in. So then he comes back on, he says, my name is blah, blah, blah. Okay, pause again. I tell him the situation again. He goes, this call may be monitored. So it goes on and on, these pauses. I'm like, okay, if this is a medical emergency, whether there's a stroke or heart attack, those are vital seconds there. So there's a disconnect. And so I asked him, can you send the police maybe to Sunnyside over there? He goes, I don't know where that's at. I go, can you do an internet search? He goes, that's out of my realm. I said, okay, well, thank you for your time and the call ended. So that's a disconnect. I mean, how, oh my God, if I'm saying some Main and Broadway, he goes, okay, I got you. But Sunnyside, I have no idea what that's at. Great Park. I mean, I'm not trying to be boisterous and put the fear of anybody, but it's the disconnect. So maybe they can work on getting better outsourced. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody.
That's good.
Yeah.
Vincent Alcala.
Good evening, Council, President Hansifer. Got a question for you first. I served in Vietnam, but got drafted in 1969, and I had a person that was drafted with me whose name was Hansifer. Do you have a leading connection to him?
Yes. If it's my uncle.
Yes, that's your uncle. Is he okay?
He's no longer with us.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. He was my friend. We went to basic. We had a good time. We're friends. Okay, sorry. Okay, my thing is, about Delta Garza. He's a hero. He deserves to be on that building. His name. He did everything right. People say, well, you should have never jumped on to save his fellow soldiers, their life. That was a big thing in his mind that he did, the love for his fellow soldiers. And now that, he's from East Chicago and we're trying to get his name on that building, and it don't seem that it's going anywhere. I would say it's the council, because they don't come together. Everybody should be together on this situation. And then I would say it's the mayor that he has a grudge against, for whatever reason, for Delta Garza. I don't know, I'm guessing. But all I want to know, what I don't want to know, all I want is Delta Garza to get his right to be on that building, and this thing would go away altogether. And so I appreciate your listening to. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. That concludes our public expression. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
Second.
Garcia, second by roll call, please.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Winfield,
Yeah.
Garcia,
Yes.
Orange. Hernandez, Orange,
Yes.
Monroe. Yes. Ratchford.
Yes.